Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wavelength. Today, with me, I have Mr. Ashwin Nandapurkar, and the reason that he is here, we are going to understand that in a short while. But he also happens to be a very close friend, and more importantly, he is also from the same city, Aurangabad, of which he'll be also talking about. And with that, Mr. Ashwin, can you just please, give us a brief introduction, and then we can take it ahead from there.
Sure. So I am an engineer by education. I did I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm an engineer by education, a business builder by trade. The reason I define myself that way as of today is because I think about things like an engineer, very structured, very process oriented. But when you need to build a business, you have to be very execution focused and very open. So that's like the balance that I've built over. I haven't built, like, life has helped me build that, and that's who I am. My quick journey, I'll tell you, will go into depth whenever relevant. But I started my career about 11 years ago with my first company. I started my first startup at the age of 18. Started my first company at 18, didn't work. Started my second company at 19, didn't work. Started my third company at 20, didn't work. And after that, I had a major debt which I had to pay off, and my dad couldn't help. He had to take care of my brother's education. So after three failed startups, I went into a job, worked in couple of companies for about 1.5 years. And once my debt was paid for completely with about like 60,000-70,000 rupees in my pocket, from there I was in Pune, I moved to Hyderabad, I joined a startup there. Early stage startup, no money, nothing of that sort. So lived there worked with the startup. It was a marketing tech company, worked with them for about a year, ran out of money. Then moved to IITH for a few months. I'm from IIT Hyderabad. So I had a few juniors living there. So I moved in with them till I figured out how exactly I can move forward with my career. So lived there for about 2.5, 3 months, figured out what I wanted to do next. I decided to explore a new field, which was into, so it was a psychology related field called neuro-linguistic programming. So there was a training institute in Mumbai who I joined as head of marketing and sales. I helped them. So it was a barter transaction. I was helping them set up their marketing and sales, and they were helping me learn NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I wanted to learn that. That was like the first barter which I set up in life. And that worked. I learned for about 6 months. Then I kind of had problems with the founder. We kind of diverged on the direction we wanted to go. I moved on from there, then moved into my second barter role, which was I wanted to explore teaching. So I went back to hometown, which is Aurangabad. There was a JEE coaching institute. Told them that, see, I have this skills of building businesses. I've done that for a while, and I want to teach physics. So we figured out that I can help them build a new age coaching center in a different city, and they can potentially let me teach physics in that center. So it was like a 80-20 role. 80% time I was building the center, 20% I was teaching physics to kids. While doing that, realized that I don't have the patience to teach that young of kids and also repeat the same things multiple times. So moved on from teaching, came back into startups after that, consulted into multiple companies, multiple startups for about a year, and then joined my last company, which was named Remo. It was a virtual events company back before pandemic. So 2019 August is when I joined. And then as the pandemic hit, we had done a lot of groundwork to figure out who our customers are, how to get to them, why they would buy our product and stuff. So that kind of helped us scale quickly. When pandemic hit, I was part of scaling the company from less than $1,000 to about $1.3 million every month. So it was a monthly recurring revenue. And I personally did about 700K USD in like 6 months time in terms of sales. So that was like, so, and then after that, yeah, we scaled the company and I moved on after like moving from sales to managing customer churn, then moved into launching a new product, new channel partnership program. And then once I got that to 32 partners from zero, like conceptualized it with the team, built it up, tested it out and launched it, took care of everything pre-sales. So from there, once we got from 0 to 32 partners, I moved on. And then I got into blockchain. But the way, like, this is where I typically pause my story first time is because it's like first 8 years of my career, 7.5 years of my career was completely failures. I just kept on falling and standing up, falling and standing up, falling and standing up. And then after that, like the Remo 1.5, 2 years time frame, that is where I literally applied everything that I'd learned in the first 7, 8 years. And that is where like it was just a downward curve for a long time, and then there was a major peak in my career trajectory.
So that's actually like two lifetimes crammed into one almost. But the important thing that I felt that you could especially elaborate on and help us understand, I think you began while you were in college because you said 18, right?
Yep.
So the reasons, the motivations for beginning so early first, and the other point which you mentioned towards the end was that you applied everything that you had learned during the failures and implemented it during the latest stint that you had during the COVID times to scale the company to new heights. In fact, to unprecedented heights. So, can you just elaborate on these two portions? Why beginning so early and what were the lessons?
So, see, beginning early was, there was no specific reason. For me, it was like I was in a mechanical engineering branch. I was in an IIT, so I had a lot more privilege than most other people would have in their engineering. But I think everyone has time. It's just that brand name not everyone has. But I had a lot of time, and I had a decently enough. Like people didn't know IIT Hyderabad when I was there. When we used to tell people we are from IIT Hyderabad, they used to tell us, "No, you don't know. There is no IIT in Hyderabad. You are from Triple IIT Hyderabad." But again, still IIT still carried small amount of weight. For me, it was like I was studying mechanical engineering, which was something which I was not at all interested in, and it didn't make any sense for me. Because I was like, these things used to happen like in 1980s and 2005, and I'm studying this in like 2012 or 2013, when these processes are already obsolete. So that didn't make sense. That's where I started exploring new things. I was like, okay, this is not meant for me. Let's figure out what makes more sense for me. I played around with things. In IITs, we have a lot of clubs. So I played around. I went into every club to figure out what they were doing. And then I always had this curiosity or maybe passion, whatever word you would use, for actually creating stuff with my hands. Like basically doing things like this is something which I have created that gives me immense pleasure. It may satisfaction more than pleasure. It gives me satisfaction. And when I started doing startups, the results were secondary in my head. It was always about creating something. Like I saw a problem, I created a solution. Okay, it didn't solve 1,000 people's problems or 1,000,000 people's problems, but it solved 2 people's problems. That was I was very happy with that whenever I've done that. So that was kind of, I tried multiple things, I stumbled upon startups, and then I realized, okay, this is something which actually resonates very well with me as a human. And that's when, since then, I've been just in this field where I've been trying to solve problems all around.
Right. And the lessons that you mentioned. So while you were exploring and trying to solve problems, but that journey itself reveals new problems. Not creates, but it reveals so many underlying problems that usually are completely beyond our field of knowledge because we simply don't have the relevant experience or even the proper background to help us support to understand that these are the pitfalls, these are the red flags and so on. So what were the lessons that you learned, both the easy way and as well as the hard way, which you feel are should be learned by everyone else the easy way, preferably not the hard one? And if you had to go back into the past and tell yourself, or even tell a younger generation, what is it that what are the few principles that you would really enunciate?
See, the first one is just get started. In general, what I've seen with people, I'm generalizing, not everyone is like this, but in general, people spend way too much time in just getting ready to do something. It's like the amount of, I'm not saying don't spend time on building a strategy or building a plan and then get started, but the amount of time that is spent doing that is too big, in my opinion, because I think it's from The Art of War, whereas no strategy survives the first impact in the battle. Yeah. That is very true for business. No strategy will actually survive first impact with market. Market is just going to bring you to your feet. So, how much ever strategy you create, it's just going to be a guideline. That's where what I think is, what people do is they focus on building a perfect strategy and executing it to a T. I think if I have to go back and tell myself or other, my current mentees, what I tell them is, it's okay to create any kind of strategy. Just have a strategy, have a goal, and then keep iterating. It's not a straight line. It's going to be loops like this. It's like a curve like this, and you're going in loops. You'll go up, come down, again go up, come down, go up, come down, come up, come down, and then eventually you'll reach where you need to go. So that is like the most important, the fundamental thing which I would say the first, that rather than building for the end goal, just get started somewhere and keep iterating till you reach the end goal. Keep measuring, keep iterating till you reach the end goal. That's like the first, the most important thing. Another one which I think is, it's failure happens to everyone. It's like that is something which people think that I am alone who is failing. What will other people think? Like, why am I facing something like this? But failure happens to everyone. So even like the biggest film stars in our country have faced failures. Even the biggest business folks have faced. Like one of the biggest, in my opinion, is Elon Musk today. But even with anything new he does with Twitter today, he's like, people who have no idea how business works comes and criticize them. He's a stupid person. He's killing Twitter. You don't know what he's doing. So anyone at any stage in life, any stage in career is going to face failures. So that is a truth that I think people should learn early. Because if we know failure happens to everyone, the way we would deal with it is different. It's like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to take some time. But it's, in my opinion, if you want to create something huge in the world, change the world, it's not okay to just lie down there when you fail, when you fall. So falling down is necessary. That's how you would learn lessons. But getting back up after every failure and knowing that it happens to everyone in the world. So it's not you alone who fails. Everyone who has done something remarkable in their life has failed multiple times. So it's just a stepping stone towards where you need to go in life. Or in business, in career, wherever you're looking at that perspective.
Yes, and especially the process of iterations that you spoke about. So have you kind of gone into depth of the process? Have you figured out something independently that this is something that works for me and that's something that I want to hone as a personality tool? Whenever you are coming across a decision at crossroads at something, or maybe facing a challenge. So it's pretty apparent that you would have developed some kind of tools also to think about it.
So I think my approach is like a two-sided approach. So the way I look at things is, like, this is a very simple geometry concept, wherein if you have single point, you can draw infinite lines through it. When you have 2 points, you can draw only one line. So I use the second point. Like when I have these 2 points, I can just connect them with this line. The reason I bring this up here is, it's like I need 2 points to start building a strategy. That's where the first thing I do is I define a goal. It can be a goal which will change in 2 days or maybe 4 months. I don't know. But the second point needs to be defined. Once I have that goal figured out, today is already defined. Today I know. So I will write that down. So writing is a major part of how I build things. So I'll write down the goal. I'll write down where I am today. Now I'll start building 2 things here, back here, 2 here, back here. And then I connect those. And then what I do is, once I have a rough estimate, okay, I have a direction which I like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I need to do. The next step after that is breaking these things down into the smallest possible experiment I can do. My thought is, let's say for example, here we need to go to Raipur. You can go by flight, you can go by road, you can go by train. By road, multiple roads. By train, multiple roads. Similarly, in this journey, there are multiple routes you can take. So my thought process at each step is, how do I break the next step down in such a way that if I have 10 options, I can test all 10 out very quickly. Like quickly means time-wise. It's like I want to do experiments which are like 1 week or 10 days or max 15 days. So I try to break it down, and like the way I do it is, I define a hypothesis that this way, if I go this route, this is what would happen. Define a hypothesis. Then I define a success metric. If I have achieved this by the end of this 10 days, this is what it means. This is success. This means this hypothesis is working correctly. Then I go and execute. Third step is hypothesis, success metric, execution, then results, then analysis, and then repeat. It goes in the circle. That once I have that, I've done something, I know how well or how not well it has worked. I will analyze those results and I'll go back and reanalyze the whole picture. Like 10 experiments done, Now, these small experiments give me a way to choose a strategy which has higher chances of working for me. Because not every strategy works for everyone. I am a different person, you're a different person, everyone out there is a different person. So, by doing this, what I know is even though Elon Musk might be the smartest person in the world, his strategy is not fit for me. By doing this small 10-day experiment, I can know what works best for me. And that sets me up for success in the next step. And when I do the whole process from here to here in 10 steps, every step I'm increasing the probability of success. Yeah. That's where by the time I get towards the end, I'm way far ahead of the competition. And I'm very confident that I will reach my goal. Yeah. So that's where like breaking everything down into smaller steps. Each step you build multiple strategies, test them out so that you use the best fit strategy for you. And then that helps you go towards the end goal.
That's very beautifully put. Now the logical extension of that would be like applying something for yourself is a challenge of its own. Now let's say because you had experience in leading teams as well into scaling projects, none of these things happen alone. They happen when it comes, you have a team for it. So when it comes to engaging with the team, not necessarily leading it, but let's say just simple engagement with the team. It could be in any capacity because we all begin at some place, we end up at some place and that goes on. But whenever there's an engagement with a team involved or with people involved from any side, maybe from the other side of the table or maybe from your own side, what are some basic principles that you have surmised over the past few years which helps you to navigate that terrain?
See, the first thing is you have to remember everyone is a human being. You are talking to a human being. I think in business, one of the biggest challenges that people face is people forget that you're talking to another human being. It is a person you're talking to. That person is going to have their own emotions, their own reasons, their own decisions to make, their own personal life, professional life, their own goals, all of that. So that is the most important thing for me, which I have always kept reminding myself in any discussion with my team, with a partner, with a competitor, with a sales call, with someone sitting across the table on the other side. Everywhere I remind myself of that the other person is also a human being. What that gives me is, this is like the most important thing. This gives me a lot of benefits when I'm talking to someone. It's like when you remember someone is a human, you think about them the way you think about you or your friend or someone else, rather than like you're not combating with them, you're not fighting with them. When you bring in the human element, you bring in the collaborative aspect of things. So that's where when I remember the other person is human, rather than trying to crush them or rather than trying to get one up on them, trying to get more from the discussion for me than them, what that gives me is I try to understand where they are coming from. What do they need? Why are they sitting at a table with me? How can I help them the most? These are the questions that I ask in a discussion. And then my discussion is directed towards that. Okay, you're doing this business, what are you doing? What are your plans for next 5 years? What do you want to do in 10 years? Or like in personal discussion, okay, you are a aspiring entrepreneur. You have just started your first company, it's failed. Okay, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? What do you want to do? What that does is it gives me understanding of the person, and based on that, I can genuinely help that other person. And the corollary of this is, or the side outcome of this becomes that the deal I'm working on, that becomes a huge win-win. Because like it's very kind of paradoxical that I'm not focusing on the deal to get the best outcome. Because I'm helping the other person first, I'm connecting with them as a human being. I'm making sure they are getting something good. If they're spending 30 minutes with me, they're getting something from me. And when I do that, the deal by default comes on an even footing. When I do this, they are not trying to rob me. They're not trying to, again, it happens. It's like there are exceptions to every rule, but people don't try to rob me. People don't try to get one up over me. So that's where remembering them being human just makes that discussion much more easy. And this is very fair for team as well. When you have someone in your team, if you're leading, if you don't align with their goals, if you don't help them get to where they want to go, they're not going to stay with you. They will find someone else who will. So it's the fundamental thing is just always need to remember in every discussion that it can be the CM or a PM of a country, or it can be a beggar. everyone is a human being. And if you look at that discussion from that perspective, that just brings like the best out of a discussion. That's my one thing that I use in all discussions I have in life.
And that's very beautifully put as well, because we tend to see each other in modules, that this is your role becomes our existence.
Yes.
So you don't see the other person as this complete human being, but whatever their role is.
Yes.
And how does that role intersect with mine? That's it.
Yep.
So we deal with modules, we don't deal with actual full packages of a human being,
Yep.
which actually inhibits. So again, going back to the scaling part then. So when it comes to understanding the market, trying to find your place in it and maybe even conquer it, which you've done, that entire journey, what are some common pitfalls that or common assumptions that you feel that most people usually make? And what are some things which they overlook, maybe because it is too basic or maybe because it is taken for granted? What are these points when it comes which prevents people from scaling ideas?
See, I think, okay. So, see, one of the major hurdles for scaling is people assume. Like again, so the biggest challenge of scaling is actually not scaling. It is how you get to that point of scaling. Like how you have built a business, how you have built your technology till then. So what a lot of times people early stage, what they do is in a business, in a startup, is they have a lot of assumptions and they go out there with the assumptions rather than having them tested out. And I'm not talking about problem level assumptions. It's like very small assumptions. Like for example, if this customer has bought my product, someone else in that persona will buy my product. That is a fair assumption, but you don't have data to prove it. So my point is, everything that you do in a business, if you really want to build it into a scalable one, everything should be data backed. Your gut is just the starting point. And then this comes with like majorly leaders, but with everyone, especially involved in 0 to scale or 0 to 1 stage, that because they have done it for so long, they have done it in so much depth, they have a lot of gut, which is very good. But the challenge is gut is not backed by data. It's like you, as I said, as we spoke about life, you build a very small experiment to build that data. You extrapolate off of that data, but there has to be some data. There has to be some hard number which is not Ashwin dependent, Gaurav dependent, XYZ dependent, which is completely independent of the person doing this. And anyone else out there does the same experiment, they should get that data. That is unbiased data. That unbiased data, which validates most assumptions, is a major challenge, I think, in scaling. Then second major challenge is thought process. That when you're building for scale, you have to build for scale. It's like a lot of times what startups do is they're like, we don't have money today. Let's first get to some money by whatever we need to do. Like doing 10 different things will get to zero from 0 to 1 CR. That is the money we need to build something. Then next step is whatever we need to do, we'll do from 1 to 5 CR. The problem with that is you are building your business with non-working parts. I wouldn't say non-working parts, but parts that don't work together well. Because the way you go from 0 to 1 is different. The way you go from 1 CR to 5 CR is different. 5 CR to 50 CR is different. When you are not thinking at the beginning from 0 to 50 CR, like the things which you will set up in 0 to 1 CR space will not work for 1 to 5. You have to redo everything. Then 5 to 50, again redo everything. Every change of scale, you have to redo your processes, you have to redo your systems, you have to redo the culture of the company. That's where that scale thought process doesn't come in. Like again, this has come from falling only. I did this exactly thing, and that's when I've realized that if I really want to create a $1 billion company, I have to build a product for $1 billion, like which will bring me $1 billion into my bank account. But I don't have to build that today. I have to scale that back to today. That how do I test it out that it works in today's market? But at the same time, I have to have that vision on the major goal, and I have to build for scale from day zero. So that thought process is the second biggest hurdle in my opinion.
And taking that point ahead, where you mentioned that you need to see where you want to go. You mentioned the point a couple of times when you gave the example of the 2 points and a single line being drawn. And again, now when you said that you keep a reference point ahead by which you judge. Now, taking this to an entire life, because in life, many people have that North Star or a North Pole where the compass always points towards to, which means that even though they might be doing work which is not in 100% alignment, but it is still directed towards that long-term thing. So, did you have something of that sort also in your mind? Because when you are trying out different things, was there a common theme or a common North Pole, for example, where your inner compass was always pointing towards?
So I have it today. I didn't have it all the time. So it was like, again, it came from this exact same process I told you. In 2017, I went through whatever the quarter life crisis that people have, that I went down. Again, one context here is my wife is a psychologist. So I have that consistent human understanding support all the time. So 2017, what happened was I went down the rabbit hole that why do I live? Why do we as human beings exist in the world? Like, what exactly is, am I here only to like make money? Am I here only to like get a better job? What is that? I went down that rabbit hole for a very long time. And that's where I came across a lot of different psychological concepts where people have researched on all of this. And that's where I was like, all of this is fine, but this is not for me. This is theory. I have to figure out how do I apply this to me. And that's when my journey of figuring out that North Star metric for myself started. So, like, again, it has been 2017 to about 2022. Those 6 years timeline is when I have figured this out over time by doing more and more things. But to summarize that, it's like I've gotten to know myself extremely well. You put me in a situation, I can very well predict what I would do. Even if it is a highly emotional situation, it would probably be 80-90% accurate, which is, I think, for normal people, it's 45-50% as far as I've read. So by doing that self-awareness journey, I genuinely realized that one of the things that gives pure joy is helping people. Like, I have done something, it brings a smile to the other person's face, or me doing something helps other person, makes their life easier. That is one core thing that is a part of who I am. That's one part. Second part was, I am a person who is driven by things which are right next to impossible. I don't, like, if you give me a mildly difficult goal, it won't motivate me. I won't even put efforts. I know that I've experimented enough with that. But you tell me that, okay, this is something which you have to do. And in the world, there are 100 people who have probably done it before you, or 5,000 people out of 8 billion. Then that is something which will pique my interest. Then I would go and read about why has this been done? Why can't too many people do it? Because for me, that more than the goal, the journey of getting there, figuring that out, that intellectual challenge, that physical challenge of getting there, just because most people out there can't do it, I want to do it. So that is another aspect of mine, which I figured out. So from there, putting these two together, what I decided was I extrapolated the joy from helping to impact. That I want to impact people in a positive way. It could be, again, it could be anything. It could be mentoring a startup, or it could be actually donating $1 billion. It could be anyways. But impact was first aspect of my goal. Then second aspect was making it extremely difficult to do. So what is a realistic number people like impact in a lifetime? Maybe 100 million, 200 million people. So that's where I'm like, okay, what is the number that I think is extremely outrageous, that even thinking about it makes me feel stupid about the goal? You are a single person, how can you do that in this time frame, in the lifetime you have? And that number in my head was $1 billion. So that's where, like, knowing myself, I set that goal that I want to impact 1 billion people. But this still was not the end state, because it wasn't a point. It wasn't a point in the space-time continuum. It was a moving thing. It was moving everywhere. And that's where eventually in 2022, this was the last part of the goal that I figured out that I need to put it somewhere so that I can draw that line. Because I had 1 billion people impact, but that was moving everywhere. So that's where I decided, okay, again, easiest thing is just choose a logical thing. So I put that at the end of the century. 77 years. If I do things which I want to do, then during this century, I can potentially impact 1 billion people. And that made it a static point for me. Now it is 1 star that stays there. Earlier, it was a star which was moving everywhere. Now it is a 1 billion people impact by the end of this century. And that's how I've gotten like 6-7 years of work put into it, and that's my North Star. And I'm 95% sure, unless like a life-shattering event happens with me, that won't change.
That reminds me of a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. I think he said that life is more about creating yourself than finding yourself. Because there's very little less to find. You have to create most things, I think.
Yep.
Because it's not as if, when you look at successful people, you think that they've always been born with a kind of a pre-knowledge that this is what they want to do, this is how they want to do, this is why. And when we look at ourselves and we find certain things empty, another thing that might come to our mindset that maybe we are not meant for doing any big things, just because there is a vacuum where certain placeholders need to be. So I think that part you've pretty beautifully mentioned, that you went back to the drawing board of your life, you again came back, and you're again evolving. Maybe some more lines on that towards the end if you could add, because I think that's the most unique point that has come out.
See, I think I'll pick up from where you left. This is one of the things which has always driven me, which is another major important point which has been a pivotal point in my life was I have attempted suicide, and around when I was in 12th grade, around like 16 years old, and that was a very defining point for me. The reason why I bring that up at this point is because that has built a very fundamental principle of my life, which is, if one person in the world can do it, then it is not impossible. If something is not impossible, then I can do it. How, I don't know. If I will die trying, I don't know. But it is not impossible. So I do not believe in impossible. And it has come from that point that I had given up on life. I had decided to go. I had decided to just kill myself, and I didn't die. And the way I took it is, okay, I'm not going to die now. So might as well do something good. Might as well try doing the most difficult thing. And that's where I don't believe in impossible. It's like, this is something which came up very recently, coined this with a friend of mine when we were talking, is anything and everything in life is only as difficult as you see it to be. And that's a fundamental thing for me.
Now, I would again like to request you to go in a bit more depth on the final portion that you just said, because that is a very Vappu Kale has a statement, right? The more and more you go personal, the more and more things become universal. So the more you talk from a personal point of view, the more relatable it will be. And the more things become generic laws, idioms, which no one has personally verified, it's just out there, the less relatable they are. But when it comes from when it is churned out of a personal life story with a real past, with a certain definite direction for a future, so something beautiful crystallizes from the vague emotions and feelings, which is just a cloud of mist. Something crystallizes, and those crystals of thoughts and wisdom are pretty important. So yes, if you could go into a bit more depth.
So see, I can tell you more about how I do this, how I think I can do that impossible, because it's very simple. See, I've read a lot about psychology, and most of the challenges that we think exist only here. Actual physical world, if you decide in your mind that you can do it, then most likely you can do it. It's like if you decide you want to walk to the moon, obviously physics laws won't let you do that. But if you think you can't walk from here to Bangalore, that's in your head. If you really want to do it, you can figure out a way. People have done that. So that's where it's that's the first part of it, that I think the limitation is in the mind first. Now, second part which comes in is, if I really want to do something, if I think it is impossible, I figure out why people think it is impossible. Because see, one thing which is big deal with our generation is everyone wants to be different. And because they want to be different, exactly that's the reason they're the same. Yeah. The problem is, everyone is I want to be different than the world, but no one has defined what world means. And that's why trying to be different, everyone has become the same. That's where, how it comes back here is, why is it impossible? Why have people defined it to be impossible? There are reasons. Biggest example for this is, before in running, there was a concept called 4-minute mile, wherein for the longest time, the best athletes in the world could not crack the 4 minute mile. And it was here. The moment the first person did, within months, 2-3 more people did it. And it is not a big deal anymore. Back in the 50s. So why is it defined as impossible? You have to first define that, because that is the mental barrier you need to break. Once you have that barrier defined, then you can define what do you have to break that barrier. And if you don't have it, how do you build that? Like, for example, I personally, so this is something which I don't say too much, but in my life, I want to compete with Elon Musk. Not because of his money, but because of his goals. He wants to impact humanity. It's a bigger goal than mine. So that is a better person to compete with rather than any other CEO, because they're focused on money. And he has built multiple companies in multiple industries and built it to that level. So people say that you can't manage multiple businesses at the same time. Jack Dorsey has done that. He's built two major businesses at the same time. So there are always examples of someone doing that impossible. So once you've defined what people call impossible, you figure out what you have within you, and then you figure out if someone has done it or if someone has gotten close. What is it that they had that most people don't and you don't? And you build that in yourself. And then you do that iterative process towards the goal. And that's how you break the impossible into possible for you.
Yeah. In fact, again, sorry, it reminds me of something that Pablo Picasso said. When a young painter asked him that where does he get the inspiration to be rebellious from? I am also going to break all the laws and so on. So Picasso says that yes, once you know all the laws, then you can break them.
Yeah.
You can't break something that you don't know.
Definitely.
And I think that's the source of his creativity, that he understood that this is what the box meant. Then you can define what is meant by out of the box. Otherwise, in absence of that, how do you? So again, like the points that I would want to again repeat, and correct me if my phrasing of it is wrong, is that there has been so much focus upon finding out that innate meaning of life, that existential crisis which most people are completely even unaware of in the business world. For them, it's just the financial crisis and the economic crisis. But the existential crisis, how does that change the course of a life? How does that change the way one deals with people in one's life? I think that is a primary, very beautiful lesson to be learned from your own journey. And for the way that you put it across, especially with more enunciations, I think we are more excited to see how things evolve in the decisions that you've taken already. And there are many things so we'll be coming back to Mr. Ashwin again and again, hopefully. And more things are there in the pipeline in which all the things that he has spoken about, there is a definite direction to it. There are some steps that is already taken. So this particular podcast is a kind of freezing in time. It's like his river of evolution has continuously gone ahead, but we've just kind of taken a snapshot of a particular moment, and we'll be back again to talk about it in a few months' time. So until then, Ashwin, I would really like to thank you from the entire team of Wavelength, and thank you for your precious time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the great questions you had. And to have an interview like this or a discussion like this, the questions have to be very good and pointed. So I'm genuinely grateful for your questions that you've brought up today. Thank you so much.
Oh, very easy for me. The content itself spoke for itself. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please like, subscribe and share our channel. Thank you from the team Wavelength.